He's nodding. Yeah, that's good. So I'll introduce myself. I'm Dale Sims. I'm the current AIG president. And of course, we're having the annual general meeting here, which is a constitutional requirement, but it's also an opportunity to update our membership with what the AIG's doing and where we're trying to get to. So we do have 3 other directors, AIG directors here at the moment, as well as myself. Doug Menzies, of course, you would have seen already at the event, but we have Jenna as well. If you don't know Jenna, wave Jenna, yep, hello. And of course, Mark Derriman, who's the AIG secretary for the board. And we've got Fiona, not on the board, but a linchpin to the organisation. That's right. And I think, Fiona, we can start handing out those little surprises now, if you can. So there's also a sign-on sheet going around. Mark, you've got that organised, haven't you? Yes, it's a bit of paper. We just like you to write your name down. You don't have to be a member, of course, to come to this, but we do want to keep a record of who's here. We do need a quorum of 20. Jenna, can you do a quick head count? See, we're over. Are we so quick, Jenna? Fantastic. And while Fiona's handing out those small trinkets, we've got the agenda here. There are also some other documents on the member portal, but if you haven't downloaded them, it doesn't matter. I've got them here. We'll go through them. First of all, I did want to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians on the land that we're meeting today, wherever we are, out in Zoom land or here in Orange. We've had some good acknowledgements to traditional custodians today. The Wurundjeri people here in Orange. And I particularly like Matthew Green from Evolution's acknowledgement of their 70,000 years of custodianship. Yeah, absolutely. That's really worth our acknowledgement. And I don't think we should be embarrassed about giving this acknowledgement of custodianship. It's something that we should be doing routinely. And I'm sorry we left it off the agenda. But here we are. First of all, we've got item 1, apologies and proxies. Mark, any apologies or proxies? No apologies or proxies, nothing online. Was there, Lynn? Apologies, proxies? Okay, Rod's shaking his head, but no, he's not. Lynn? Lynn?
No.
You there, Lynn?
Yeah, no apologies. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can't hear you, Lynn. Have I got you muted?
Can you hear me?
Lynn.
Can you hear
Rod,
me?
can you just try saying something?
Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
We're not hearing you guys.
No.
Might have to work on that in a moment. Is John Davidson still around or is he gone? Do you mind going and try if you find John, our AV guy? Could be I plugged into the wrong port on my laptop. So, Mark, yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry, I've lost you. If I unplug you, Rocket, can you say something, Rocket?
Yeah, can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, not lip reading there, sorry.
I can't hear you now.
Well, come back to that, which will be an issue.
I can hear you now, but I can't.
So minutes of the last AGM, we do need to approve those. I do have them here. It was held, I think it was held fully on Zoom. What's the verdict?
Hello, hello, test. Can you hear me, Fiona? Test.
Yeah,
test.
well, that should be
Test.
right. Volume's full board.
Test.
Got you, Rocket. You can stop testing now. Thanks, mate. Okay.
It was in Brisbane, Dale.
Yeah, great. Fiona fixed it like she fixes everything. I'm just going to minimise you again, Rocket. Thanks, Fiona. So the minutes have been on the portal, the member portal. Can I have someone to proposing them be accepted? Seconder. Yes, thank Doug. So everyone for, if we're approving the acceptance of the minutes, show of hands. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Next item is moving to President's Report. So I'm just going to give you it's actually not overly brief, but I'm going to try and keep it as short as I can about our report. And this is my own view, of course, as President. I've been President this year, and it's really a bit of an update on where the ARG is trying to get to and what our current position is, really. So highlights for 2021. Of course, we turned 40. Now, some people in the room may remember turning 40. Some people have yet to turn 40, but it's a major milestone. It's normally worth a party or two. And so, unfortunately, during COVID, we were a bit limited as to what sort of a party we could have, but it's also an opportunity to reflect on where we've come from and plan for the future. You probably don't do that when you're turning 40 yourself, but as an organisation, we do need to think about where we are now, how we got here, and where we're going to go. And that's really the remit of the board, of course, is the strategic direction of the organisation. Right. We awarded 2 AIG gold medals this year. Now, we're only supposed to award 1, but we backdated one for the year before, for 2020, because we didn't award one then at the time from COVID. So the recipient of those medals for 2020 was Sam Lees, and 2021 was Andrew Waltho. Now, that medal scheme's been around for a while. It was started in 2008, but we also initiated a new award to recognise the contributions of volunteers to the profession of geoscience, and that's called the AIG Distinguished Service Award. And we developed that award last year and actually awarded it for the very first time to Lloyd Hamilton in Queensland. So it was a job with a deadline, and we certainly thank the Queensland branch for supporting it, because Lloyd was very unwell, and we wanted to get that award to Lloyd before we lost Lloyd, and we did. Another highlight was COVID-19. Not really a highlight, more of a low light, but it certainly accelerated the ARG's activities in a number of new directions. Ones that we may have been thinking about but not acting on, but certainly the requirements, as with business, to start to do more things online and making them available on demand led to a change in our strategy around some of the professional development options and developing online content. So a number of Zoom-based meetings, technical sessions, which we normally have face-to-face, were done through Zoom. And then that material was actually made available online. It is available online through our YouTube channel. We had to defer a number of major events. The AEGC was actually deferred from 2020 to 2021. And then the face-to-face was deferred again to 2023, but we ran the 2022 in conjunction with our partners, PISA and ASCG, as an online event, and that was actually successful. The other thing, a broad highlight, is getting the board's focus improving on governance and strategy. And the idea is to help the ARG along the pathway of being more outward-looking, building on our connectivity and collaboration, particularly with kindred bodies, but also looking at our sustainability as an organisation. So here's an event which we actually held in person last year. This was held in Brisbane in July. It's a 5-day course that's run jointly between the ARG and the AusIMM, called Core Skills. We had around 20 to 25 early career professionals. Some of them were so early career they're still in second year at their university courses. And here we see a picture of early career geoscientists with Malcolm Bridges. He's the one with the grey hair. Malcolm's a geological engineer, and we were talking about geotechnical logging. So this 5-day course uses core, donated very kindly from Evolution's Mount Rawdon deposit. Thanks, Ned. Every time, Evolution are there supporting us. And we run 5 days, which includes 3 days of core logging, and a day of data analysis. We visit a core, an assay lab, and then ultimately we interpret the data on cross sections and then look at it as a 3-dimensional model and talk in the last statistics and how to meld large amounts of data into a model. So we're running that again in July this year. So Turning 40, that opportunity to reflect, where did the AIG come from? Where's it going? The thing for me personally about that anniversary was digging into the past. And there was a lot of history in the AIG, which I didn't really appreciate. First of all, where did it come from? You know, you just assume it was from geologists who were just so miffed with the AGM, they decided to break away and form the AIG. And that's sort of part of the story, but not all of it. Really came out of the GSA. So it was following a time after the nickel boom when geologists had a very poor public perception because of insider trading and poor ethical practices that were done during that event. And the GSA decided that they needed a group focusing on the professionalism of geoscience or geology at the time. And instead of including that as part of GSA's remits, they with PISA and ASCG support, set up the AIG. So that's our history. And we were about professionalism, not so much the technical content or the science. So that was interesting for me, and it really spawned the board's appreciation or focus on our future and our sustainability. The question really is the AIG going to be around in the next 40 years? That's the question we've got to face. Looking at our awards that we distributed this year, we've set up an awards scheme. We've revised the awards scheme. We've awarded twice the gold medal. We've set up this Distinguished Service Award, and we've also set up an awards committee headed by Mike Smith. Now, of course, people know Mike Smith. If you don't know him, he's a force of nature. Mike's going to be the chair for the first 2 years of this committee, but then we'll be looking for additional people to help start. It's a small committee, and we're including the branches. Oh, shit. Thanks, Doug. Can you share your screen? Is that what, maybe that's what Rod was trying to tell me all along. Yeah, sorry, Rod. Share screen. How's that, Rod? Is that good? Great. Sorry, mate. Yeah. How many times have you watched people do that? Get rid of this thing. Oh, that thing. Radio. So there's the awards scheme that we've set up, and we're trying to maintain this or develop this focus on recognising the contribution people are making to make the AIG work. And the AIG's it's an egalitarian organisation. You know, we're not pompous in any way, but we realise that we're actually underdoing the recognition of volunteer work because we're a volunteer-driven group. So setting up the award scheme was an action which we've carried through on last year. So, and our awardees, just to reinforce that, initial Distinguished Service Awardee was Lloyd Hamilton. Here's Lloyd here. Late in the year, Lloyd was had a long-term association with the AIG, as many other professional organisations, GSA and AusIMM. He taught for a long time at QIT, then QUT, and a real stalwart in his own way. So it was great to be able to recognise Lloyd's contribution. He was very chuffed to get that award. And it was presented to him not long before he actually passed away. And then for the gold medals, Sam Lees from Sydney presented with his medal at a SMEG event, and then Andrew Walther presented at a dinner in Queensland. So they were our awardees last year. What about the awardees this year? So I'm pleased to announce at the AGM here that we have 6 awardees for the Distinguished Service Awards. And these are being run largely through interaction with local state branches. So if I can name our awardees, and they've all been phoned, so it's not an overly large surprise to them. Wendy Corbett. Wendy will be here tomorrow to actually pick up another award for her contribution to this conference series. Wendy's in New South Wales. Wayne Spilsbury, past president of the AIG. Graham Teal in South Australia. Wayne's, of course, in Western Australia. Graham Pope in Queensland. Very active on the committee and also a linchpin for the most recent AEGC event. Bob Finlay in Tasmania. and Rod Boucher in Victoria. So they're our 6 awardees, and the local branches will be organising events where they'll be handing over the physical award, but also, celebrating and recognising their contribution. So maybe you can join me in thanking those awardees. Thanks. So I mentioned the capture of technical content and the sharing of it. Really pleasing to see the AIG's YouTube channel getting populated with more and more content. There's talks there from meetings in Queensland, Tasmania, and Western Australia. So now, as standard, whenever we're holding a technical presentation, it's largely being captured. Well, I think it's being captured and it's being shared on the YouTube channel. I know Smedge were doing some Zoom meetings when lockdown was on. I remember going to one run by Greg Hall. So if the Smedge recordings are available, it'd be great to get those also on the YouTube channel, because the relationship with the AIG and Smedge is quite close. We have an MOU, and the idea is that we collaborate and we don't compete. So it's great if we can share those resources. The other thing we did, and I think we probably approved this year, but it's in the sort of 12 months since the last AGM, was to support an online training program called Practical Geocommunication, run by a gentleman, Hayden Mort. He's a Brit who lives largely in Brazil as well as in Britain. And it's a course, online course, to help to assist us in communicating outside of our own technical groups, our own geoscience community. It's about communicating with the public, and particularly with younger generations. Because as you'll see in a moment, one of our biggest challenges we have is building a connectivity with early career geoscientists, but also building a connectivity with the community who are going to be growing up and having a life where the requirements of the mining sector are going to be increasingly important to them. So, Practical Geocommunication, free to AIG members. It's also free to GSA and PISA members who also signed up for the program. We've signed up for 2 years, so I'd encourage you to have a look at Geologise. There's been some emails sent out. We have our own portal, and you can start straight away at no cost. That saves you $400 US if you wanted to do that course yourself, about 580 Australian. So there's a very tangible benefit of your membership. And I'd encourage you to have a look at this and start the program. Jenny, you're very supportive of it. You've completed it. Well done. So another thing we did during the year was to change our colours. We wanted to recognise diversity and inclusion. So for about a month and a half, we swapped the AIG logo over into the rainbow colour scheme. Now, I had varying reactions to that. Not very many unsupportive, only a few. One who wasn't even a member felt intimidated by those colours. But overall, the response has been very positive. We've swapped it back now to our standard red bars. Well, they're white, but our standard logo. And the idea is that we bring this out occasionally. We did it at the time of International Women's Day, as well as the Mardi Gras was on. And we thought it'd be a great thing to do just to change people's perceptions of the AIG, because we have to be outward looking as well as inward looking. And it overall was well received. So from a presidential position, how does the AIG work? I've spent a lot of the year in this presidential role trying to understand that. And when I talk to people very experienced in AIG matters, they normally say something like, good luck with that. You're trying to understand how the AIG works. It really works through the efforts of a core of really dedicated people. These are volunteers. That's the branches in states, but it's also a whole range of committees. I probably haven't listed all of the committees there, but we've got education, membership, NGG, Next Gen Geos, of course the RPGeo board. We allocate student bursaries, that happens through committees. We've got a national mentoring scheme with state-based committees that make that work. We've got people working on technical content. We've got the awards committee. There's many committees. So there's a lot of volunteers making the AIG work behind the scenes. We've got the board as well. They're volunteers and they're increasingly becoming very active and with a list of things to do and participations to undertake. Because we're a very lean structure and we couldn't work if we didn't have fantastic support. So we don't have much support. In fact, almost very little. I didn't say none, but almost very little support. And I'm amazed by what we can do. So we have Lynn Vigar, who's in Townsville, as our executive officer. Fiona here, who runs our website and design and newsletters. Laureline in Western Australia, who helps to manage events in the Western Australian branch, but also she's available to do work more broadly. And we have a secretariat based in Sydney, Taz. Not many. I'm not even sure how many full-time equivalents we'd have in the ARG. It might be only 3 or 4. Maybe not even that. So extremely lean. It's a bit hard to read this. There's probably a way I can get rid of this control. Normally it would just disappear with time. So make it disappear. Hide video panel. What's that one? Anyway, I wanted to reinforce that the ARG has a lot of opportunities ahead of us. There's quite a lot of things we can be doing, but we do need to change because at the moment in the ARG, to make anything happen, you have to do it yourself. And there's a limit to how much that can be done for volunteers and for people engaged in that, in all of these committees and activities. Plus, we're all really busy to start with. So, snapshot now, where does the ARG sit? Just over 3,200 members. These are the financial members. Our finances are sound. Rod's going to talk about that in a minute. You know, over 2 million in cash assets, largely, and the branches hold their own assets. And the New South Wales branch has got over 245,000 in its own accounts. And those funds are largely coming from excesses over time from this event. So the challenges for our branches is to make that money work for them and make the money work for their members. 20% of our membership is international, and it's our biggest growing sector. Where are our members joining? They're joining from outside Australia. We've got currently 15% female membership. I'll show you a little bit of history on that. I'll talk about that further. But really, since 2013, and our data is a little bit rubbery, but we're pretty much, our membership is flatlined. We've stopped growing. We had quite a growth spurt up to 2013, but now we've flattened out. I want to talk about that as well. And of course, things are booming. The industry's flat out, and I think we're on the cusp of a sustained push for minerals, be it critical, bulk, or otherwise. We're going to be flat out, and it's going to last for a long time. So we do need to get organised. If you look at the distribution of ARG members, 85% of them are in Australia. But we can see for the list on the right-hand side that we've got a growing number of members in other countries. We do wonder why they join, because they don't actually get anything tangible out of it. They don't have meetings, they don't have any branches. They're being driven to join through the opportunity to sign off on reporting codes. That's true, international reporting codes, particularly NI 43-101. ARG membership allows you to sign off as a qualified person. But there must be other issues as well that they're looking for, other professional development opportunities, where we need to understand that better. This data is coming from information that members joining the ARG need to include on their application form. We've only been doing this probably since, I don't know, maybe 2012, 2013. So this data doesn't represent the whole of the membership. It only represents members that have recently joined. I think one of our opportunities is really to get this data for all of our membership by asking members, what are they doing now? What sector are they working now? So here we can see that this brown sector that takes up most of the pie chart is the minerals sector. But you can see we've still got maybe 15% of our membership working in other areas outside of minerals. Geothermal, hydrogeology, engineering geology are real big areas, and we're getting strong growth. If we look at where the growth in RPGOs has been in the last couple of years, it's largely been in hydrogeology and geotechnical. Where are people employed? The green sector is industry. Most people are employed within industry. The orange sector is consulting, the light blue is contractor service provider. So we still have a large proportion of our membership who are consultants or contractors. as well as working in industry. And then there's a range of other, including government and construction research. What sector do people work in? Largely, we're dominantly explorationists. There's around about 65% of that pie chart is orange, and that's in exploration. But the blue and the yellow, or the dark blue and the yellow sectors, are both mining and production and resource evaluation. The definitions may include resource development. So we have around about a third of our members who are working in the mineral sector, doing mine production work. It's an area we're not strongly represented in. Obviously, we're dominantly in exploration, but there's a growth opportunity there for the ARG into those sectors. If we look at the specialisations people are interested in, you can read the list on the right-hand side. It shows that we're actually interested in a lot of stuff. ARG members have a huge range and scope of their activities, and therein lies an opportunity for ARG, the access through the organisation to find out more about some of these specialisation areas is a large career path guidance potential that we can offer our members when we get more organised in that networking component of membership. Here's the graph of overall membership. The blue line is total members, red line is member AIG, yellow is student members, and the others down the bottom are graduates and fellows. So we can see overall our numbers are flatlined. And that's largely been driven by the student numbers. We can see that student numbers have dropped off. Our member numbers in red have been climbing, but relatively slowly. If we look at where those members are located, we've got the dominant number of our members are in Western Australia. Overseas, there is 16%, roughly. This is on the most recent data from mid last year. And you can see the other states there. The only sector here which is growing proportionally is overseas, as I mentioned before. If we look at the lines, the top line is the proportion of members, AIG members in WA. The orange and brown lines are New South Wales and Queensland, and the lower green line, bucking the trend and going up, is overseas members, excluding New Zealand. Not that we want to exclude them as being overseas, but they're sort of a bit like Aussies. So that's where we're growing. That's where the ARG membership is growing. We look at the gender balance, or rather the gender imbalance. Back in 2001, we had under 10% female membership. We peaked in about 2023 with 20%, and now we've gone back to about 15%. People might say, well, that's what the industry's like, isn't it? That's what the gender balance is like out there. Latest survey I saw, 2021, fly in, fly out, the gender balance was about 19% women. But we know in geoscience, that's not the gender balance of people who do geoscience. It's much higher. Let's look at the gender balance within age brackets in the ARG last year. So the bars are brackets or bins of years. So if you're less than 25, you're in the first bin, 25 to 30, 35, 30 to 35. As we look at the ageing demographics in our membership profile, we can see that the number of, or the proportion of female participation in the very first bracket, and these are students and graduates, it's nearly parity, 50%, equal numbers. As soon as we go into the next bracket, 25 to 30, the female participation halves, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. And this is an issue that's been point of discussion. There's a group called WMESA, which is Women in Geoscience, Women in Earth Science, Earth and Environmental Science, Women in Earth and Environmental Science, and WMESA have been doing research into this. There's a number of issues that lead to female departicipation in geoscience, and the ARG's remit is to address some of those issues, and we think we can do that through some of our membership practices, particularly making it easier for women to be more flexible in leaving the workforce or departing for parenting, and not just women, for parenting reasons. Of course, anyone, to maintain their membership and to maintain the currency of their knowledge is really key for us to support. The employment and underemployment surveys that are run quarterly really show the trend that when unemployment goes up in geoscience, people join the ARG. When it goes down, some of them leave, some of them stay, but we actually don't continue growing. So people really want to come to the ARG when they feel there's an opportunity for them to progress their career, but once they're there, they don't really see that opportunity. I'm generalising, of course. If you look at the membership change in the last 10 years, and my apologies, you can't read that bottom line of data. So this is from 2013 to 2022. The green are new members joining. The orange are deactivations. They're a negative number. And then the blue is the resultant balance. Are we growing or are we shrinking? Whether the blue line is, where the line's blue, it's positive. We've got growth, where it's red, it's shrinking. So if we looked at the last 10 years, how many members we had join the ARG, it's about 3,000. How many have we got now? We've got about 3,000. But how many left in that last 10 years? Well, nearly 3,000. So over 10 years, we average roughly 13 new members a year, just over one a month. Now, there's a bit of fudging in that because the data for the deactivations includes a whole lot of cleanup in the database of student members. There was a 5-year period where we realised that student members actually weren't deactivating their student membership, and we had people who were students for more than 20 years in the database. So we had a clean-up exercise in taking people out of student membership after 5 years. So maybe there's a bit of catch-up in that deactivation, but the numbers are showing we're actually not growing particularly strongly. So we've got to think about why that is. So again, looking at incoming members, where are those incoming members? Where are the departing members? You can see the trend lines through time of incoming members in blue, students in orange, graduates in green. None of them are overly showing an increasing trend. We've got the cleanup issues in the departing members in the orange line, but we can also see at times we get large departures of members and graduates. Now, some of the members die, and death is a valid excuse for not continuing your membership. Lynn always reminds you of that when I start talking about these sorts of things, but we've got to make sure that we're trying to be more attractive to our membership base. Why do we exist? We exist so that our members are valued and that they meet the high professional standards expected by society. And that's a purpose statement that the board developed a year and a half ago to focus our attention on what the ARG is about. We have the ownership structure, and we've been thinking about our governance and strategy quite a bit at the board. And the reason we've been trying to think about that, or we've been thinking about that, is we're trying to build a structure for the ARG's sustainability of the future. So the owners, the members, own the company. The owners vote in directors to help run the strategy of the company and have the governance overview. And then at the operation stages, we have branches, committees, and the paid support that we have. But that support's very thin or lean. So the aim of the board is to increase that level of support, to make it easier for volunteers to undertake their work, but also to improve our connectivity and focus around building on opportunities. So, issues, I'm just going through these now. Competency is a major issue. Chris Cairns is on a number of committees with us looking at the issue of competent person criteria and oversight at the moment. But the whole issue of accreditation, registration and oversight is not just for competent personage, it's through a number of geoscience activities, including hydrogeology and engineering geoscience. I've talked about our structure and the need to improve our processes and policies and our governance. The issues around education, Phil Gilmore talked about TCEP. We're having a meeting on Saturday to talk about ways that we can improve outreach to around geoscience education at all levels, primary, secondary and tertiary. But it's a major issue. And Dave Cohen's here in the audience. Dave chairs or is the president of the Australian Geoscience Council, and we're moving in parallel with the AGC on a number of those fronts and trying to build on that relationship. Engaging with early career geoscientists. There was a stat Lynn dug out of the database for me. 20 years ago, the average age of members in the ARG was 46, excluding students. Today, the average age of members is 49. So we're actually just getting slowly older and older. So we need to start to boost that the influx of early career geoscientists, and we need to keep them interested in what ARG can offer. I've talked about volunteer stress and improving support, but also getting the board focused on preparing the AIG for what the demands of the future are going to be. And they're going to be large, because a number of the issues around geoscience education are going to come home to roost in the industries that we work in. How can the AIG support people who may not have been adequately educated in particular aspects of geoscience once they come into the industry? So the AGC's recently published a manifesto. It was a collaborative event or a collaborative exercise through all of the AGC member organisations. And so we're trying to get a united front on this issue of geoscientists for the future. So there's 3 items in that manifesto: raising the profile of geoscience in the broader community, and we can do that through that outreach program; developing a lifelong learning agenda, which we need to apply also in our professional organisations; and growing tertiary geoscience education. Just briefly, the areas of strategy that the AIG board's focusing on at the moment, and these are strategic goals, and we have some very smart, specific goals to develop or to deliver on over the next 18 months at the board level around business, membership, technical and quality. So we need to get our processes better documented in the running and execution of the AIG. We need to be more focused in our marketing and outreach to our membership, both current members, past members and future members. We want to look in more detail at this issue of micro-credentialing and developing professional development and content delivery through conferences, seminars and also publications. And also to look at this issue of best practice, competency standards and professional ethics. And there we actually want to leverage the RPGO scheme because they are experts in their own fields. So the AIG is changing, and the board's belief is we need to change to ensure our sustainability. We're looking to increase the level of support in the organisation, and we're really trying to get support from and engagement with our membership. And if we don't, then sustainability for the AIG may not be there. We may not be around in 40 years' time. I sincerely hope that's not the case. So look, thanks very much for listening to that, and I'll now stop sharing and go to the next agenda item for Rod. Are you there, Rod?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yep. Go ahead, mate.
All right. Thanks very much, Dale. This is the report from the Treasury for the AIG for the year ending December 2021. It was a year of continued COVID-induced consolidation and isolation for the AIG. The AIG remains in a strong financial position, with the assets of the Institute growing from 1.84 million in 2019 to 2.13 million at the end of 2020, a surplus of $289,919 for the year. The surplus is a combination of increased membership income, workshop income, and sponsorship, but it does not include costs associated with distribution of funds to other members of the SAEMC event. It also includes a receipt back for seed funding for the AEGC 2020 event and the profit from the online event, but not all the costs associated with the loss-making in-person event that was cancelled, with some of these costs being deferred into the AEGC 2023 event. So whilst there is certainly a significant profit this year, there are some outstanding deficits which have to be, will level up next year. The AIG is one of the 3 bodies that make up the JORC Committee. The JORC Committee was supplied with funding from the AIG in 2021 to assist with the implementation of an update of the JORC Code. An initial payment of $75,000 was made in 2021 to support the code review through administration assistance, and a further $30,000 contributed to supporting the competent person criteria review and member consultation process that's just recently been conducted and completed. Additional funding has been requested in 2022 to continue the development of the project of the JORC Code and Competent Person workshops. The AIG annual account statement has been audited by Tinworth and Company Chartered Accountants, who are satisfied that they are a suitable record of the AIG financial position. The AIG board considers that the accounts are true and fair record of the AIG financial position. The board considers that there are unlikely to be any financial circumstances that would have an adverse effect on the AIG financial position in 2022. That's my position. Thank you very much. Is there any commentary or any questions regarding the financial report?
Shaking heads here. Anyone online? Is there anything in the chat? Can Dale share his screen? Okay. Okay, so if there's no questions, then will we move the financial reports accepted? Anyone moving? Yep. Moved, Chris. So are we happy to accept the report? Thank you. It's all good. Thanks, Rod.
Okay.
Rod, next item, appointment of auditors.
Yep, so I just put it to the AGM that we consider it fit to pass the following resolution as an ordinary resolution, and that is that Tinworth and Company be appointed as the auditor for the Australian Institute of Geoscientists for the financial year ending the 31st of December 2022.
Again, anyone to move that? Yep, Mark. Doug, accepted. I mean, what is that? What is our audit costs there, Rod?
On notice, no idea, but it's around about the $15,000 all up for all the checks and balances.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Rocket. All right, well, thanks very much for that. I've just got a couple of things to finish with. I've got to share my screen again, otherwise. Hopeless. Right. This is around the election of directors. Are you seeing that now? Rod, you can see that one? You there, Rod?
Yes, mate, it's there.
Okay, right, thanks. So we've just yesterday closed the ballot for the election of directors. We had 8 positions vacant through normal turnover, as well as replacing 3 directors who had retired and their positions had been filled for 2021 as casual vacancies. So out of 2,554 eligible members, we got 686 participated in the voting, 27%. Last time we did this, we had 26%. So I think we're on an upward trend. That's got to be part of our engagement criteria, surely. Probably the usual suspects, but I thank them for their participation. And I'd like to announce the successful nominees. So our successful candidates: Chris Dickinson, Doug Brown, Jenna McDonough, Heidi Pass, Kirsty Sherrin, Mark Tate, Nicole Galloway-Warland, and Nick Franey. Chris and Nicole have been re-elected, previous board members, standing again, and Jenna had been occupying a casual vacancy. So look, join me in thanking and congratulating those elected. Of course, our thanks to our outgoing directors, Katarina David, Bo Nichols, James Lorca, Chris Woodfall, and Mark Reinhardt. And of course, thanks very much to our ongoing directors who didn't need to renominate or stand again. So Leah Moore, Rod Carlson, Doug Menzies, Mark Gerryman, Andrew Wolfo, and myself. So the next item is the special resolution around the Constitution. So that's to resolve that the current Constitution as adopted in May 2020 be replaced and the proposed Constitution be adopted. The vote for that was 75% for changing the constitution or updating it, revising it. 19% abstained and 6% were against. So that special resolution is carried. What happens now? We have 14 days to notify ASIC of that change of constitution. Once it's lodged with ASIC, it becomes active, and we have in that constitution some transitional arrangements around the directorship. And so over the next couple of years, we'll see a more change or opportunity within the directorship. And if you've been keeping up with the constitution revision proposal, you'll see that we're actually trying to reduce the size of the ARG board from 14 to 11. So that's an information item, and great to see the members supporting that resolution. We've put nearly 2 years of work into this constitution revision. So now the last item is any other business. So I'll open the floor. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Chris Cairns.
Yeah, just a quick one. This special resolution, was it a simple majority or did you?
No, it's a majority. Yeah. So that was a question about the majority. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Anything online? Stop sharing now. Any other questions online? No. Well, if not, then look, I'll thank everybody for their patience and for hanging in there in the room and online, and I'll close the meeting and declare our thanks for you. So thanks for participating.
Thanks, Dale.
Thanks, mate. Thanks, Lynn.
Thank you, everyone.
See you.